My name is Dave Heyer, for those of you who don't know, but I'm sure most of you do. And thank you for taking time from your day to join us today, to be here for this gathering to talk about the Sister Water Project in Honduras. I'd like to begin by letting the team kind of introduce themselves, just their name and where they're from, and you'll get to hear from some of the team members in more detail as we go along this afternoon. So I will just hand the mic over and let people introduce themselves.
So, can you hear me? Yes. So, hi, my name is Victoria Vega, and I come from Colombia.
I'm Deacon Ken Bauer from Marion, St. Joseph Church.
Hello, good afternoon. I'm Christine Guevara from Cedar Falls.
Hi everyone, I'm Paige Lampy and I'm from Bellevue, Iowa.
Good afternoon, I'm Jane Heyer, I'm from Dubuque.
Hello, my name is Vicki Wessels and I'm from Manchester, Iowa.
I'm Denise Ernst and I'm from Bellevue, Iowa.
Hello, I'm Wayne Green from Waverly, Iowa.
So we have a couple of people. Mark had to leave early. So Mark Morrison had joined us. This group got together for lunch today, and Mark Morrison, who's part of the team, was here earlier but had other commitments this afternoon, so was not able to stick around for this. There are three other members of the team who are not here today. John Schuler, who's visiting grandkids in North Carolina. Sister Pat Farrell didn't think coming for lunch made it worth her while coming from Mississippi. And our grandson Avery was planning to join us today but is ill, and so we uninvited him. So I did want to just say a couple words before I let some others share our experience here. But first of all, I just want to talk about the team, because you're going to get to meet some of the team members, but we had, I felt like an incredible team as part of this water project. A very diverse team. If you were talking about age, we went from age 18 to age 77, and a few of us in between. And we had a good mix of women and men. We had 7 and 6, so it was about as close as you could get in that mix. And just various backgrounds of the team members and what we brought to the team. 3 people who spoke Spanish, which was incredibly helpful, as you can imagine. But we all bonded so well together, and it was just, I was a co-leader of this team with Sister Pat Farrell, and I couldn't have handpicked a better team. It was just a great group. But I also wanted to spend a little time thanking you for the prayer support that you gave to us before, during, and after. We definitely felt your support as we were there on this service trip. And some of you went so far as to send special little written notes that we shared with the group during the week, which again just remind us, it was a constant reminder of your prayer presence. So thank you for that. If there was probably the only thing I could have wished for that would have been different, would have been that each of you could have been there with us as we were in Honduras, just to see the love and the admiration that these Honduran people have for the Franciscan sisters.
Absolutely.
It was heartwarming and sometimes brought us to tears just to see the love they had for you. And I wish you could have been there to see it in person. This was my second, Jane and my second time, and a couple of others who have gone their second time. But this experience was just so different than our first experience in 2017. And I attribute much of that to your partnership with World Vision. They are tremendous partners in this process, And hopefully that kind of partnership continues for many, many years in the future. One of the major differences here was that we weren't working on the project every day. We got opportunities to do some cultural and relationship building with the Honduran people. And as one of the Honduran men had shared with us, it's really your presence here that's so important to us. Not that they didn't appreciate the little bit of work that we were able to do, but it was more about us being there with them that was the most important thing. And so I felt like we really got to share with them culturally and building relationships. And the other difference here this time was that we got to be part of 3 water projects, not just 1 water project. So we got to be there for the beginning of one of the projects, the kickoff stage. We got to be there for one that was completion. It was being completed, where they were signing papers to turn it over to the community. And then, of course, the water project that we were actually working on. So we got to be there for one in the process. So 3 different projects, all that were funded in part by Sister Water and the Franciscans. But we got to be part of that experience and to be your representatives there. So thank you for that opportunity. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Victoria, first of all, and let her share part of her experience with you.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you. I'm a little bit nervous, so when I knew about this project, my friends Ellie and Judy told me about it, and at the beginning, I really didn't realize how this project would change my life. Because when they said to me, okay, do you want to go to Honduras? Do you want to do this project with them, with the sisters? I said, yes, I want to. And I think I did it because for me, it's a way to say thank you. I've been blessed by God in so many ways. So I said, I want to give back, even if it is a little bit, but for me, it's very important to do that. So I remember, before the trip, I was a little bit oh, how it's going to be, the people there, because we didn't meet before, just the time when we got here. So, and one of my friends asked me, when did you know that you would be able to kind of be with them and spend time with them? Because maybe we didn't realize, but we were about to spend 10 days in another country. And we just have one another. I mean, we went there together as a team until we got there and we saw Sister Pat and she was with us. So when we got there, I remember that I was eager to work. I want to work. Because I thought we would work the 10 days. I said, oh. So that night, when we got to the facility, it was amazing to see the welcoming. They were very happy to have us there. We had dinner with the mayors of the different towns. And we went to bed, and I think I really couldn't sleep because they were in some festival or something, and there were fireworks all night long. But even though with that, we wanted to get up early the next day and be able to, okay, we are ready to work. We shared breakfast together, and then we went to Zacate Blanco. And for me, one of the things that really struck me is that the way that they received us, I don't know, I felt that we were like rock stars. There were fireworks, kids were dressed up for us. We walked from the entrance of the town to the church, that is a quarter mile or something. They were singing songs for God, they were holding flowers. It was very powerful because I thought that we were going there to help, but I've never think that they would be that grateful for our presence there. So after that, and we had mass, and it was fabulous. I mean, and then we started to work, and I was so happy about it. I mean, I really wanted to get down to the fitness. And the first thing that we did was kind of dig holes for some energy poles that they needed for the pump. And I don't know, for me was, I didn't want to stop to work because Sister Pat was, oh, you don't want that somebody come here and help you? And I was, no, I don't want. I came here just to help, just to be. So I think for me, it was a very powerful experience. Also because I speak Spanish, so I was able to, when they were talking about us, and when they were, I knew what they were saying, you know. And they were able. They were able also to spend time with them. Like, I studied diplomacy, and for me it was very powerful to be able to spend really time with their community, to make bread with them, to see how happy they are, because they don't really need much to be happy. Like, we think like, oh, we have so many things, and we think that we need so many things, but in the reality, when you see these communities, they are happy and they work together, you know, as a community. And I think that's one of the main takeaways from me. Like, you don't need to have much to be happy. You don't need to, if you work together, if your community work together, you are able to achieve many things, like amazing things. And I think that's my experience. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Deacon Ken Bauer from Marion. And this was my second trip to Honduras. The first time was in 2018. And one of the sisters here was on that trip. But I want to share a couple of experiences on this trip. And one of the questions on the application was, do you speak Spanish? Well, I don't. So I went, oh, well, one strike against me. But I was fortunate, I feel blessed that I was able to go on this trip. There was another trip planned for 2020, but of course, something happened and that was shut down. So when this opportunity came up, I felt moved to go again. And just wanted to share a couple of experiences going back to the language barrier. It wasn't really a barrier for me, because I came to realize how we could communicate with what I call Spanish Sign Language. So one day we were actually digging the trench, and the whole process is using hand tools. So the dirt was loosened up by one guy with a pickaxe, perhaps, and then another guy, I was wielding a shovel to throw out the loose dirt. And I was coming to realize the trench was not wide enough. We had specifications. They cut a twig from a tree to a certain length, and we had to get it that deep and that width, and I could tell it was not wide enough. So I motioned to the guy with the pickaxe, pointing to the trench and then widening my hands, and he got the message. So the next time around, I could tell it was wide enough, and I gave him the universal thumbs up. So, just because I couldn't speak Spanish, he couldn't speak English, we communicated just fine. A second experience, Dave and Victoria, we were blessed to have three who could speak Spanish, but they were not always around. So the other experience was what I call the Honduran farming experience. And we were broken up into groups of 3. So it was myself and Wayne and John, who was not able to be here. So we didn't have anyone speaking to us or being able to translate. So this one guy led us to the plot. Basically, we ended up planting a garden plot. And again, he was showing us how to, dig a trench and pile up the dirt in between these trenches that were about 3 feet apart. And then we, take the real, sophisticated tool, the shovel handle, and smooth the dirt that was in between this trench, and then just made 3 small trenches to meticulously plant these individual seeds into this trench, and about 2 inches apart. And at one point, we were asking, trying to communicate, so what are we planting? Well, eventually, using again, Spanish, sign language and pointing. Another gentleman went up to a different part of the plot and pulled about a dozen radishes, and he had washed them off, and we had, we enjoyed radishes, freshly harvested, but that's what we were planting. But again, we were able to communicate using sign language and other means, and it worked out just fine. And I just wanted to share a personal experience and how I was, changed from my 2018 trip to this trip. When I came back in 2018, I was thinking just how impoverished the Honduran people are that we were experiencing, how they lived in poverty. And I was judging that, based on, the type of housing that they have, their need to have to haul water to wash and to drink and to cook, and just the whole, being in a third world country. Well, on this trip, I realized how, to describe, how misperceived, or my misperception, they are not impoverished. They have wealth and are rich in other ways. Maybe not the material things, but they're hardworking people. They're able to provide for themselves and their family, and it's just, just the richness, their strong sense of community, the alliance of the community, the closeness they share, and their strong faith life and spirituality are evident. So there's many other ways that they are rich, not based on the material things.
Hello again, I'm Christine Guevara. So I wanted to start with showing you this little towel. Oh. Jane's going to help me again. So this is something that was created by the people of Zacate Blanco, and we used it for something that I did not realize that could be used for. So what we would do was that we would get dough, corn dough, with cheese and cream and crushed peppercorns and sugar, and we would so we would put these little balls of dough, and we would pat them this way, and then we would make what they call quesadillas, but they're baked bread quesadillas that are really yummy, actually. And we spend a lot of hours doing this, actually. Something that I learned about my trip was trust and community. So we didn't, as it has been described, we didn't know anybody on the trip, we didn't know anybody there, but these people trusted us. They trusted us into their houses, their kitchens, their gardens, with their children. And so that showed us that we could also trust them. And I don't think we really thought about that literally as we were going through this experience, but we were trusting them, and they were trusting us. Something that we read that was very impactful for me as a psychologist, we had this policies and procedures thing, right, really boring, right? But it was to protect the children. It was our commitment to the children that we would not take unwarranted pictures of them, that we were not going to policies, policies and procedures that we were to follow for the children. And that really impacted me, that, you know, you're on this trip, you don't know what to expect, but then they are making sure that we are aware what's expected for us and how to treat the children. And that was such an impactful thing for me, to see that. And then I didn't really understand what that was going to mean, but we spent a lot of time with their children and with their community. We went to their music festivals, we shared meals with them, and the children sometimes were working alongside us, guiding us. There was one experience that's not on any of the pictures or videos or anything, but 3 of us were asked, are you okay with walking really far? And we had to really walked really far and really high and down and everything, right? Like really intense hiking. And of course everybody said no, but 3 of us said yes, and I was in that group. And we didn't know, again, what were we going to see, where were we going to go, and it was the day we went farming. And we kept going in these little corridors, back and forth, up and down. Couldn't really see where you were heading. And then all of a sudden when we got there, it was like this little oasis that was all like shady with little water passing by. You could hear the water. There was hummingbirds flying around everywhere. And all these beautiful tropical flowers. And this is where we were going to be farming. And like I said, that none of us had, I actually didn't take any electronics with me on this trip. I didn't have a phone, I didn't have anything. And it was such a gift and trust and being able to build community. And like Dave, I'm just gonna reiterate, he was such a good facilitator for our group, good leader. So was Sister Pat. And we really did become a true team, a true family while we were there. When we had no power, all of us were collaborating, contributing. John's not here today, but I think Vicky later is going to read a poem that he wrote about how we bonded as a team. And another beautiful gift, it was a difficult trip when we went to El Salvador, and we were able to visit where Archbishop Romero lived and passed. And such mixed feelings, such intensity, and such inspiration at the same time. And that's, I think, what our trip was. It was a mix of, there were difficult things that we saw at times that motivated us in one way or another. And I think that that's the power of what transformed all of us, really. Thank you.
All right, hello everybody. Again, my name is Paige Lampy. I teach in Bellevue, Iowa. I know some of you have Bellevue connections, so it's good to see you all. When I decided to go on this Sister Water Project service trip, I had really been looking for something to do for others. I really wanted action, like charity, service work, me working with my hands for somebody else. And that made the beginning of this trip a little hard for me because, as Victoria kind of mentioned, we did not pick up a shovel for quite a while when we first got on this trip because we were greeted with such celebration and such reverence and gratitude. And so by the time we actually did start to work, we spent an entire day digging a trench uphill, and it was probably, I'm not good with distances, but I would say like 50 yards. And we dug this trench, and we were maximum effort, right? Like maximum efficiency, us 13 people could do.
Proud.
Yes, very proud of our work. And at the end of that work session, we overheard that this would be the typical assignment for one Honduran person in one day. Oh. Yes, and so that was very, very humbling. So the first few days, I struggled with feeling a little bit inadequate, or like I wasn't being sufficient, I wasn't helping enough, I wasn't doing enough, right? Like I set out to do something, and I felt like my actions weren't quite enough. And there was a Honduran man who I think maybe Christine had translated. I was kind of talking about this on the work site, and he said to me, "Your work matters because the intention of your heart matters." And that was kind of the moment I realized fully that water was not the only thing I could offer this community. And you know, every human has this deep, unwavering need for water. And equally, we have this deep, unwavering need for love and belonging and connection, to be seen and to be known and to be loved. And so I realized I didn't have to do enough. That's not all service is, right? I needed to just be and notice these beautiful people. And so my understanding of service kind of changed from this doing, this action of the hands, to this being, or this orientation of my heart, to always be looking at others and seeing how I can see them and know them and love them, rather than just what I can do for them. So I served, and I was served on this trip. I saw people, and I got to know people, and I showed love to others. But I also felt seen and felt known and felt loved by the Honduran people, by all of you through your prayer, and also by my team as we served side by side, shoulder to shoulder, literally in the trenches. That saying has a whole new meaning for me now, as you'll see from our pictures, yeah. But it was really a mutual noticing of a shared humanity that I will be forever grateful for. And you know, when we got back from this trip, the hardest question to answer is people, "How was your trip? Describe your trip. What was your trip like?" And I would say, "Do you have 5 hours and a projector? Because I don't know how to explain this to you." But I think if I had to sum it up, I would say this trip was a 10-day-long prayer. It felt like every step, every breath we were taking, every meal was one long communal prayer, and it was very sanctifying. So I can't thank you all enough for giving us this opportunity. It was definitely life-changing, and I hope that the Sister Water Project can live on and continue to impact others for a very long time. Thank you.
I'm Jane Heyer, and I am not going to say a lot about the trip. For me, I'll just say this. I was not going to go at first. I was waiting for it to fill up. Well, I am so glad I went. It was phenomenal. It was just an amazing trip in so many ways. And of course, to experience it with Dave again and with our grandson Avery meant the world to me as well. So it was beautiful. Another really beautiful gift on this trip, a beautiful experience, was the hospitality, and I know people have spoken about that already, but the hospitality and the love that we felt from the Honduran people was immense, and we just can't say that enough. And they also like to show that hospitality and that recognition, and especially for the Sisters of St. Francis. So I brought back, Sister Pat sent a number of items back where the Honduran people wanted to recognize all of the great things that you, the sisters, have been doing. And some of these plaques have to do with the water project that was just completed in La Porta. And so I'm going to pass it around during our question and answer time so you get a chance to look at it. But several plaques up here that I'll pass around. A lot of items that were made and presented to us as parting gifts. And one other thing I'll show you. Also, I made a picture book. I'm going to pass that around, which I told Sister Ginny I will leave here for you to look at. You might enjoy that. And one of the really, I think, powerful things that happen when a water project is completed in a village, one of the elderly matrons of the community are presented a jug. And during this ceremony, when the water project is basically handed over to the community from World Vision, one of the things they do is the woman places a jug on her head, and this jug, this is part of a jug, symbolizes the women and children that need to carry water from the water source to their homes. And what the woman does in this final ceremony is she takes that jug and slams it on the ground, breaks the jug to signify the end of having to go walk for water. Quite a powerful experience. So anyway, these are some of the things that I'm going to pass around, and you'll just get to see them. It's kind of special to know that you have been such a big part of making that happen. And I know what we want to do is we want to give you plenty of time to ask questions, and we're happy to answer questions. So I'll pass it over to Dave.
So I think you can see the team was, and you only got to hear from a few of the team, or half the team, but it was a powerful group, and we had an amazing experience. So we do have a couple of microphones that we're going to be kind of circulating around the room. Wayne, there's one right up here you can grab, and Sister Maureen has one. So if anyone has some questions, and again, this will be for anyone in our group who wants to respond to it, but we're open to hearing what we maybe didn't cover that you wanted to know about.
Start. I was just wondering, what would you say, for example, to the next group of volunteers that might go down to a water project? What do you feel you did really right? And maybe perhaps what would you do better next time?
You know, probably the one thing that I would say that I would encourage that we do differently is a little better coordination with the World Vision group as it relates to nighttime, because part of our process was in the evening that our team would gather, kind of reflect on the day, share our experience, and have some prayer and so on. But usually by the time we got done, we were so exhausted, nobody had time or wanted to get together. We just wanted to collapse, you know. And so we need to maybe do a little better in coordinating that to allow for some time. But that was our Pat and I should have had that conversation with World Vision ahead of time to make them know of our need or expectation. So it was no one's fault, but it would be something we would do probably a little different for future times. Anybody else want to share something that we did well, or that?
Sure, I can. One thing I told the Sister Water Project Committee in my evaluation of the trip was I was really impressed with the orientation that we had the night before we left for the trip. They kind of laid some groundwork about how to be culturally conscious when you are visiting a completely different culture, and so I think it was just really helpful to all be on the same page about going in as guests and being listeners and learners, and just being flexible and open to the cultural differences. And I think it enriched our trip so much to get to take on the lifestyle and the traditions of another culture with open arms rather than, you know, kind of staying stuck in our ways. So I really appreciated that kind of training at the beginning, and just the way that every team member kind of embraced that flexibility and openness.
You can tell she's a teacher.
And Dave, if I could, add to that, I agree, Victoria said it and Paige said it, that you go down there and you're thinking, okay, I'm gonna really work, get a lot of work done, that's what I'm here for. But I think we need to remember that it's the interaction with the people and getting to know them, that, don't get hung up on the work. Get hung up on the relationship we make with these people, so.
Well, part of the reason we don't want to get hung up on the work is because it took 13 of us one whole day to do what one of them was going to do. So, but really, I think we all know this. Life is about relationships, and that was a major part of what we were doing. And it was just, as I said before, a real honor to be able to represent you in this fashion. Go ahead, sister.
Thanks to everybody who spoke. Just so impressive to hear that. And I've been down in Honduras myself for a little bit, so I appreciate what kind of an experience that is. And Wayne's comment about doing, that's so American. And, we just have that in our bones. And it's not what life is all about. And you've told us that very well. My question, though, is how did we get connected to World Vision, and kind of what's their mission, and how does it connect with ours?
I'm going to let somebody else talk about how you got connected, because I'm not sure I'm the person to say that. But I can tell you that what I experienced with World Vision is that, first of all, they're doing some of the screening on behalf of Sister Water to kind of vet out communities to help make sure that the connection that you have with the project is what really meets your goals and expectations. And primarily, one of the things is to work with the poorest of the poor, and that's part of what they're doing. But they go so far beyond that in what we witnessed, in that they start in a community to talk about water because it's such a basic need and something that's essential, but that's not where they end. And part of what they do, in addition to the water project, is help build leadership. They have leadership training that they're doing because they want to make sure that once this project is complete, well, first of all, that they have somebody there to work with during the project to make sure the project is going to get completed. But then that somebody's going to be able to maintain this water project, and that's part of their leadership training. But in the community we stayed in, and we got to do a little tour of that town one evening when we got back, we saw their presence. They had helped build their library or expand their library. They had helped build some recreational opportunities within the community, some restroom facilities. So World Vision had their imprint on many things in that community beyond the water project. So again, I just feel like their vision and their commitment, their resources are just a great partner. Maybe Jane or Maureen could talk about how you got initially connected with World Vision.
Guillermo Calderon is a relative of Eric Calderon that was with us for 9 years, and he's about to become an associate in December officially, but he's very close to the community for a long time, and he works for World Vision, and now I think we have at least 1 or 2 other people that are becoming associates that work with World Vision. So there's a lot of connection to the Franciscan spirit and World Vision. So that's kind of how the connection is. So we've kind of said that all of our groups, all of our funding for Honduras will go through World Vision. And Rita wants to talk, and then Kathy.
In the years before the formal agreement was written, signed with World Vision for the Sister Water Project to work with them, there were informal workings with. When Sister Pat Farrell and Carol Hawkins and Nancy Meyerhofer were working with the Sister Water Project, it is my understanding, and Carol, you can help out with this, that there was consultation with World Vision personnel because they had the technicians, they had the knowledge and the know-how. It was not a formal agreement at that time, but the bridges were being built. And so before our Franciscan sisters moved back to this country, it was carefully worked out that Guillermo came to this country, visited with us, spoke to all the sisters, met with the leadership team, met with the Sister Water Project Committee, and some detail, as you remember, and to explain who they are and how we could work together. And the agreement was made to sign a letter of understanding with them. And now the Sister Water Committee receives from them, as has been said, the grant request prepared by World Vision with all the information that the committee needs to be able to approve it in such a way to recommend it to the leadership team to approve.
And one other thing too, when they're doing their leadership, they always make it a point to make sure that there are women leaders being trained. And they said, we don't just choose the women for just secretarial jobs. We want them to be in full leadership capacities to whatever other groups can. Any other questions?
Yeah, other questions?
Can you talk a little bit about the size of the community where you worked? Like, is it a community of 10, a community of 500, or how many people are part of this particular community where you lived?
Okay, so just a clarification, we lived in one community and we worked in another community that was about 20 or 30 minutes away from that. And then we visited 2 other communities with water projects that were a couple hours out from that. So again, community sizes vary and definitions of communities also vary from what we might understand as community. You know, the community we lived in, I would say, was probably several hundred people in that community because it was more densely housed and populated. Some of these communities, like the community we worked in, you know, the church, we walked about a quarter of a mile and there were just a few scattered houses throughout the area. It wasn't a village like we would normally think of as a community, but it was an area that considered themselves community. So, you know, these were not huge communities that we were working with, but smaller, more rural, and not densely populated.
So before my trip to Zacate Blanco, I did look up statistics on the community because I like math. And so it's actually 800, but because of the layout geographically of the location, you don't really see them all at once unless they're celebrating something. And so they usually build their houses on top, and there's a lot of trees. It's like a deciduous forest, I would say, similar to that. And so you see a lot of pines, different kinds of other trees as well. And then we're like inside the mountains kind of thing, so you don't really see them on a straight shot, but they're there. So when you walk to their community or to their location, you don't see them. It's sparse, it looks sparse, but when they meet up for a celebration, then you see hundreds of people there.
Thanks, Christine.
What were your personal accommodations? Did you have ready water?
So, again, the experience this time was much different than our first experience, and yes, generally there was running water in the area. And this, again, was arranged by World Vision, our accommodations, and there were separate buildings. There was a building where the women were residing and another facility where the men were residing. And then there was what was called the higher suite, you know, where the 3 hires stayed. And there was running water in our facility and the women's facility, and the men had to go outside to get water or shower in an outdoor facility. But there was running water, except of course when there was no electricity and then nobody had water or light. So that did happen to us while we were staying there. But you know, it was really a good experience for us to have that for about a day. So
The mayors of all of a few of the towns got together and bought mattresses and box springs and pillows for each of the people to come. And then they were going to give those to charity when they left. So they spent a lot of time trying to make sure everybody was comfortable.
right. So I should probably just share this story, which is a little humorous maybe, but a few days before we were getting ready to leave, our grandson calls me and said, "Hey Grandpa, could you tell me a little bit more about this resort we're going to be staying at?" I'm going, whoa. I hope we didn't give you that impression, because this is not going to be a resort. But really, compared to our first accommodations when we were there 17 years ago, it almost was a resort. You know? Yes?
Since you mentioned 17 years ago, I was at Briar Cliff for 17 years, and we went to Honduras 15 of those years. And I remember early on when we came, and we had a predominantly women's team. And I remember going into this village, and we came with our pickaxes and all this, and there were all men working. And they just looked at us. Like, what are these women doing here? They can't work. And so it took a part of the day, and they knew that these college women were strong. But it was like pretty soon, the women from their families came out and joined us. It was like it was a breakthrough for them. They wanted to be part of it too. And I'm wondering, in your experience, did women join you in the DD?
Great. You want to respond to this?
Well,
In the microphone, please.
there were some women that joined us. There weren't a lot of women that joined us, but it was kind of exciting to see. Obviously, their roles are, you know, different, but they made delicious soup, I can tell you, because they fed us well when we came into these other communities. But there were some women, and the kids were watching us too. So maybe that's a good thing.
I think we have time for maybe one more question. Okay, if not, we do have one thing that we want to kind of close with here. One thing we want to close with here, and one of our members who's not here today, John Schuler, wrote a poem on one of the last nights we were there that he shared with us, and we'd like to share that poem, even though John's not here to read it. Vicki has agreed to read it to us, that was written by John Schuler.
Yeah, very unassumingly, at the end, we're together, one of our last nights, and we're meeting together to share some things, and John just goes, "Well, you know, I kind of like to write poetry." And we're kind of looking at each other. John's going to he wrote a poem? He sure did. And it's called the Honduras 12. We're serving in Honduras. Yes, that is where we're at. We are the 12 apostles of our beloved Sister Pat. We came to serve God's children, but His children showed us how to love and laugh and live in joy and share with a smile. To help and work and dig and serve, that's what we came here for. We came to help with water, and we leave with so much more. We made a list one evening of what so far we've done. One drew a rainbow river with hope of what's to come. We celebrate the blessings that you send, because celebrating is holy. We learned that from our friend. And now the time has come for us to say goodbye for now, and like the 12 apostles, may we live as you taught us how. John Schuler.
thank you again for joining us. You know, we'll stick around if people want to chat more, and certainly come up and take a look at some of the mementos that we brought back for you to see and experience. I know I promised Maureen she could have the last word, so Maureen, it's yours.
We just want to thank everybody on the team for your willingness to serve, your willingness to let go of expectations and see what happened, and the great example of what a beautiful community you formed among yourselves and with the people. And on behalf of the Sisters of St. Francis, we want to thank you.
the sun, the bringer of day. He carries the light of the Lord in his rays, the moon and the stars who light up the way unto your throne.
Storms, the gentlest breeze, they blow where they will, they blow where they please, to please the Lord. The heavens are telling the glory of God, and all creation is shouting for joy. Come dance in the forest from day till day, and sing the glory of the Lord.
Praise for the rain that waters our fields and blesses our crops, so all the earth yields. From death unto life, her mystery revealed, springs forth in joy.